Hey, it's DBJ. For those who don't know, if you see me rocking back and forth, it's a medicine ball. The light in here is actually really good. I like it. So I just like to sit down and get the sunlight and whatnot. And so I kind of like rock back and forth. It's just a it's just a thing, and it's comfortable. Helps my back out. Anyway, this is a video response tag. Getting this from DBS and came just going around. Red Dice Diaries pushed it through, and this is a little background, little interesting RPG tag thing going on with questions, and I kind of like it. And this will give you an insight into my background as a role player. So I'm going to start out with one of the questions asked was, what was my very first gaming experience, and how was I introduced to role-playing? I'm going to say that my first experience was playing Redbox, basic Dungeons & Dragons, in, of all places, grade school. We had a class, English class, I guess it was, or something like that. And every Friday we got to do something called Creative Dramatics. And it was basically, we had to come up with something creative to do. And the teacher found this game that someone brought in back in the 70s. I was maybe 7 or 8 years old at the time. And called Dungeons and Dragons. And opened the box, taught the whole class how to play. And we each actually separated into like groups of like 4. And each group of 4 of us played a character. So like 4 of us were like a wizard, 4 people were a fighter, 4 people were, I guess, a cleric or an elf or something. I don't even remember the classes. I think they just had like magic user, fighter, thief. I think they had dwarf and elf were like classes then or something. And well, anyway, after that, every Friday, instead of the whole class, we just had a couple of friends, myself and a couple of friends, and we'd say, hey, can we play some Dungeons & Dragons? And the teacher was like, yeah, sure, go ahead. And so in class, we played like Dungeons & Dragons for like a half an hour, or something like that. I don't remember how long it was. And that lasted until, wow, that lasted, it felt like a year, man. And we just played and played, and we barely knew the rules, right? And, you know, you're a kid, you just want to go into a cave and fight some stuff, and we rolled some dice and everything. And they were the worst dice in the world. Like, you'd have to take a crayon, we'd take crayons and, like, fill in the little carved dice, and then the edges of the dice would, like, chip off if you hit them too hard. And they wouldn't be true in shape and size. Well, anyway, then very shortly after that, went to a bookstore with the parents, and I loved reading and everything, and found the Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, Monster Manual, and was like, I gotta have those books. And then my parents looked at the book, looked at the price on the back, and it was just like, what the hell? This is a game? Is it that freaking expensive? And started from Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and never looked back. Yeah, so that was, I actually had quite a positive experience because I got to use Dungeons and Dragons in school as a method to tell stories and such. So, and ever since then, I'd look at television and movies and read books and try to convert what I saw into games. And that's kind of why I'm more of a cinematic, chapter-based storyteller as opposed to an organic, you know, not having to have a pacing to the story. I'm very paced set. Another question was some of my favorite and worst characters, PCs, NPCs, and my first character. My first character was a gnome named Tandem Markellos Endeavoro. And I don't know why I picked the name Endeavoro. I think think it came from my mom would use large words around me, and many times I wouldn't understand them, and so she would tell me, if you don't understand, look it up. Look it up in an encyclopedia. Remember those encyclopedias, or a dictionary, or a thesaurus, or something, and find the description. And I remember the word endeavor, and I loved how it sounded, how it was spelled, how it rolled off the tongue. I don't know, something about it. So then the next character I made, I just changed the letters on the end, because a lot of characters' names, you come up with Paul, you change one of the letters, and now his name is Trawl or something like that, right? So I just changed 2 letters on the end and named him Endeavoro, and it just stuck. And I ended up getting a magic item. My 2 favorite magic items were feather tokens. It was one feather token. You could just drop the feather and it would turn into a tree. And my other favorite one, my absolute favorite one of every single magic item and the entire DMG in all of creation, was the ebony fly. That thing riding on the back of this ebony fly, it was just awesome. And I think he was at the time was a multi-class fighter illusionist. And I just got to ride around on this ebony fly, helping my friends out, going into danger, coming up with ways to feed the ebony fly. I don't think it needed to be fed, but it was just really cool. I had this sack of rotted meat, and it was just very fun. And the players, I just remember, they just accepted it. I mean, it was just like, hey man, you gonna play your character Endeavor? Yeah. TME is going to be right on in the game. We're going to play some game stuff. I played that character for like 6 years straight, on and off. We even changed systems. We started over again. We got really high level. I think he ended up being like a total of like 18th or 19th level. We got tired of it, started all over again, used the same characters, went back down in levels again. Said we're going to reboot. It's like a movie. We're going to reboot. We're going to go to a new setting. We played in Greyhawk majority of the time, stopped, did Forgotten Realms for a short time, stopped, it's just great. One of the best, my most memorable, and I have a video about this, my most memorable NPC encounter was one that came about from boredom, and it was these 5 goblins that, there was a horde of goblins. I want to do a big war. Player characters get involved, and back in the day, we would just roll one die attack for every single creature. It was 48 of them, 48 attack rolls. Their player characters are attacking them, 48 defense rolls, whatever the hell the system was. And it went from this big giant battle to like this very boring like dice slog. Like, oh, I'm gonna roll a die yet again. Roll. It's third. It's only the 3rd round. Roll 150 times, just whatever. And I was the game master at the time. I was like, man, I got to change something up. So I had these 5 goblins just split off from the back of the group, steal the treasure, and just run for it. And it just threw everybody for a loop. Like, they're not attacking us? Like, no, you're slaughtering their friends. They steal the treasure. There's no treasure at the end of the game? Yeah, there's a couple of trinkets left, sure, but they stole it. And then these 5 goblins, we started giving them all these dumb names like Sniffles and Black Eye and Longtooth and Rugrat and all this kind of stuff, Backbiter, and they never ever had the same 5 names, but they would just show up and cause havoc and run. Show up, the player characters would come into a town, and the town would be plagued by these 5 goblins who would just steal stuff. And the thing is, they would never steal or damage anything that was really valuable. It would just be like they'd write graffiti on the walls of the player characters, like with their pants down, or like getting bopped in the head with a hammer, or like bent over and pretending to stick a sword up somebody's butt or something like that, or like they come into town and they'd break the fences so the cows would run off into the distance, and the player characters had to go and help the townsfolk get their cows back or something. They'd steal copper pieces instead of the really expensive platinum. They would recover we had characters that had like 3 pages of magic items, and when they would drop stuff, the goblins would take it and sell it or use it themselves. It was just, and I think that was a point when I was really young where story started becoming more important than the game itself. Like, it wasn't, hey, we have to hurry up and get to the end of the module. It was like the idea of the travel was more important than the end of the slog, if you will, the end of the journey. I'll say I played with a guy who was a power gamer, and the name of his character was Astralong, and we used to call him Defook, because we'd always say, what the fuck, because he would just pull out, he ended up getting a wish, and wished he was a Solar, but evil. And we were just, what the hell? Like, he just had, he had pages of, like, artifacts, and he was just a power gamer through and through. And his character, Astralong, he loved playing evil characters. He loved to backstab. He loved to steal shit. The only thing that I have to give him credit for is he never, ever, ever balked at the repercussions of what he did. I remember we played in a game, and we went to meet this old sage or wizard or something, and the wizard was like, could you hold this diamond? It was a real expensive diamond. Astralong was just a character sitting there holding this diamond. And the wizard's starting to draw this pentagram and designs and stuff around Astralong. And we're talking, and the wizard's like, just hold on for a minute. I needed to gather you guys together for an important mission. This is the very beginning of the game, right? He's drawing out this line and stuff, and we're sitting there, and he's like, well, what's he doing? Like, well, he's just drawing this pentagram around where you're standing and stuff. And he's like, well, is he doing anything to me? No. Is he casting a spell at me? No. He's just drawing this pentagram and stuff. And at the end, you're like, okay, where's the map? We're supposed to go on this adventure. What's going on? And then the wizard springs it on him, and he's like, well, the game master was like, I cast remove the soul or something like that, soul drain or something like that, like a high level, like 9th level spell where it just drains your soul into the thing. And this was like the first 5 minutes of the game, right? So Astralong's character, he like literally stood there not doing anything as this wizard cast this spell, like drew this spell around him and sucked his soul into this gem, and was like, okay, he puts the gem up on the shelf, okay, the rest of us go on this adventure. And he had such a kick out of that. Like, he's like, you mean I could have just stepped out of the pentagram? Yes, you could have just stepped out of it. You mean I could have just killed this guy? Well, maybe, probably. And he just laughed and laughed. He just had a good time with all the dumb stuff we used to do. And that was pretty fun. What else? I'll say, what am I playing now? Some of my influences. Right now, I'm absolutely positively in love with Fate. Fate Core and Fate Accelerated, both of them. I love the Fate system. It's been panned, criticized by a lot of people for not having a structure to it. It absolutely is a game that has a structure to it. It has a system to it. What I love about Fate is it has a rule system that you cannot hide behind. Too often, especially with your basic like Pathfinder and Palladium games, hell, even one of my favorites that I played for a long time, the White Wolf world, the World of Darkness, original or classic, you could say, Vampire the Masquerade, Mage the Ascension, Wraith the Oblivion, those games. One of the problems is that I've seen players hide behind the rules to rationalize their own power gaming. Like, it's like, well, I'm playing a warlock. It's not my fault the warlock's more powerful, blah, blah, blah. Or I'm playing a paladin. It's not my fault the rules make the paladins more powerful than, so-and-so. And in Fate, you can't hide. Fate, to me, is a game where it's like, hey, I want my character to be the best wizard in the world, and you have to tell the rest of the player characters in the group and the game master, I want to be the most powerful wizard in the world. You can't hide your own intentions in that game. I want to be the best gunslinger. I want to be a ninja. I want to be, a space cadet, and you have to state that on your character sheet. There's no fudging of this confluence of rules and numbers that you can mix together to make yourself powerful. You either decide you're powerful or you decide you're not. And so to me, Fate is a game that bears everything on the table. It bears what you want out of the game. It lays bare what you're willing to accept as a win or a loss. And it also gives game masters and players a lot of player agency to alter, change, or decide the course of their player character, the world itself, and what goes on around them. So I really like that. I really like the fact that it has an economy, the Fate economy with the Fate points. It actually absolutely has a game system. There are dice, there are rules, but instead of picking through 30 skills, I want acrobatics, I want survival, I want sword fighting, I want crafting. You can actually make one statement in your character. So you can make a statement of exiled noble, and if you say, well, my character is an exiled noble, that says a lot. Well, you were exiled. Exiled from where? Why were you exiled? You're a noble. Okay, that would give you skills in being able to speak well in high class situations. Maybe you have connections and things. So by making these flat statements, it summarizes a large part of what the character is, and also gives you those benefits. So you have a benefit because you are a noble. You may have a benefit because you were exiled. Maybe you're in enemy territory, and that enemy brings you in and says, hey, you can be with us. It also gives you an opportunity for the game master to pick your limitations. Maybe you go into a village where they don't like the noble family that you came from. You were exiled for a reason, and you're being hunted by mercenaries or bounty hunters. Those kind of things. And so just by using a statement, exiled noble, to me, those things are creative elements that I love to include in games rather than static elements. I have, my character has 3 points of etiquette. My character has 2 points of public speaking. No, I did not spend points on noble family, so I'm going to say I'm exiled because I do not have any noble wealth. I didn't spend points on wealth. Instead of having to separate and pick and choose and kind of contrive what the character is about, Fate lays it bare, and I love it. Lastly, I'll say that right now I'm playing in the Hangouts G Plus game. Well, actually, there's quite a few games, but going on, one game I really want to go back to is the Copper Coast Tales. It's a D&D. We were 5th edition. We basically are still playing 5th edition, but we switched over to Fate system. Not a big deal, not a big translation. We played till we were like 3rd or 4th level in 5th edition. I really do still like it. I think 5th edition is built on old bones. I don't like hit points. I don't like armor class. I think the two are far too descriptive for a game system that is more mechanical. But that's, like, again, that's just me. Do I play the game? Sure, I love it. I love alignment. Hit points don't bother me as much as some people. It's not. I don't hate it. Armor class doesn't bother me. I don't hate it. I just think that it sometimes boils down to lowest common denominator for alignment, hit points, and armor class. And I think it's far more creative and organic and ripe for description. And just saying, hey, I roll, I hit, I roll, I miss. Well, maybe you did get hit, you just didn't suffer anything. That ray of frost, maybe you blocked it with your shield and your hand is really cold or something. Or you got hit for 12 hit points and you only have 31 hit points. That's a pretty major chunk. Did you fall down or whatever? Descriptive elements, which are not in the game, but I love using them and role-playing off of them. So anyway, if I'm going to tag a few people, who puts out videos that I've like to see? I want to tag Chepe. I'll tag Fawn Trodden. I'll tag, well, Fantastic Dimensions already been tagged. I'll tag Runeslinger, who's out there. I've got to talk to him. And I'll tag, who's out on the edges? I'll tag Serco as well, because I like his accent and I like a lot of the things that he has to say. So, and anybody else that sees this, man, just respond to, your first game, the first player character you've seen, some memorable NPCs, some of your most hated NPCs, if you can remember them. What are you playing now? Some of your favorite systems. And just spread it around and kind of introduce yourself. So anyway, it's DBJ, and it's my video response. Thanks, guys.